Hello everyone and welcome to... This is Asia, and here's Sri Lanka. Now let's take a peek, shall we? Shaped like a large teardrop dripping off the face of South Asia, the tropical nation of Sri Lanka has a very ancient and very fascinating story. The island's first known inhabitants were hunter-gatherers, who were followed many centuries later by the Sinhalese people from northern India, who spoke an Indo-Aryan language, and later Tamils from southern India, who spoke a Dravidian language.
What does that mean?
It means they spoke different languages.
Oh.
The earliest written accounts of Sri Lanka describe it as a place of spirits and snake people. Though the coordinates don't match, the island may have been the Lanka mentioned in the Sanskrit epic the Ramayana. Prince Rama's wife Sita is abducted by the demon king Ravana, and he sets out to get her back from the island, accompanied by the monkey god Hanuman. In the 3rd century, Buddhism was introduced, and is today the majority religion. From the Iron Age to the medieval era, Sri Lanka was ruled by the Anuradhapura kingdom, a hefty slice of time in which relic housing stupas were built, rice was grown, Buddhas were sculpted, pearls were dived for, and forts were built on top of big rocks. A fortress, huh? That must mean war. Yes, there was plenty of that. We can't all just get along and eat coconuts, can we? The kingdoms of southern India invaded Sri Lanka many times. Occasionally, Sri Lanka would invade them back, or fight and win on their home ground. India's Chola dynasty destroyed the Sri Lankan capital, and so the seat of governance shifted to another site. From here, Sri Lanka bloomed again under the great king Parakramabahu. That's a great name, and a great beard too. He fought and built and fought some more. And what happened? Years passed, and the kingdom declined, and others followed. Sinhalese power weakened markedly, though its leaders still lived well off the profits of commerce, trading cinnamon and spices with Arab merchants. Now, it was in the time of the northern Hindu Tamil kingdom of Jaffna that the Portuguese arrived. Since Sri Lanka is located in a good spot for trade, the Portuguese said, "Hey, this is located in a good spot for trade," though they probably said it in Portuguese. After gaining trading privileges, Portugal was invited to intervene in some royal political squabbles, and soon Portugal was asserting control over much of the island, which in those days the Europeans called Ceylon. Rulers such as this fellow arose to fight the Portuguese, but were beaten, and wars raged in which 4 Sri Lankan kingdoms would collapse. The only Sri Lankan state remaining was the Kingdom of Kandy, which allied with the Dutch against the Portuguese. The Dutch won, in which time they also became hostile to the Kandians. What happened was the Dutch took over Portugal's holdings in Ceylon and ruled a sort of insular ring, whilst Kandy remained landlocked in its own land. Then along came the British. After booting out the Dutch, Britain conquered the entire island. The subsequent rebellion was crushed, and Britain set about moulding the island according to its wishes, which began with starting up coffee plantations, and then moving on to tea and rubber, which raked in immense amounts of money. Many thousands of Tamils were brought in from India to work on the plantations. The British also brought industrialization with them, and the island's concerns, stresses and woes switched from feudal to modern ones. So the decades passed, and Sri Lankans resented foreign rule, and their dreams of independence assumed tangibility after World War II, in which conflict British forces received quite the pounding by Japanese aggression. In 1948, Sri Lanka gained independence, with D.S. Ananaik becoming the first Prime Minister, who maintained good relations with Britain, just as he maintained his tidy mustache. The left-wing 4th Prime Minister declared Sinhala to be the one and only official language of the land, angering the Tamils. He was shot dead by a Buddhist monk in 1959. The following year, his widow became the world's first female Prime Minister. Further leftist policies were pursued, and further division grew between the Sinhalese and the Tamils. Aggrieved by continual discrimination, the Tamils formed a militant separatist group, the Tamil Tigers, hoping to carve out their own state. The Sri Lankan Civil War engulfed the nation for a quarter of a century. Tens of thousands died before it ended in 2009, with the government victorious. 10 years later, the country suffered a serious economic crisis, and violent protests flared up that resulted in the Prime Minister fleeing the country and resigning. The country today faces a number of challenges, but has nevertheless attained a high level of human development, and we wish it well and all the best for the future. So that's it for Sri Lanka, and that's all from me for now. Bye-bye!